Welcome to Silicon Valley Asian Business Talk.
Hello, everyone. This is Roger Chen from Center for Business Studies and Innovation in Asia Pacific, University of San Francisco. Vera, I want to welcome you to our interview program. And would you please briefly introduce yourself?
Thank you, Roger. It's a real pleasure to join you on this podcast. My name is Veera. I'm from Sustainable Living Lab. We're a group of companies that basically deliver services around sustainability, consulting, and also all the adjacent sort of activities in that space. We've been around as a business for 14 years. We started out headquartered in Singapore. Today, we have offices in Indonesia, India, and the US, and we operate in about 30 countries. We have a staff strength of about 80 people delivering services in this space.
How do we work on global digital divide challenges?
So now let's talk about your next, the things you are passionate you are doing, which is the digital divide, because you kind of work with the Intel several programs on the digital divide. I think it's also a fascinating question. Based upon maybe you can briefly explain that program that you are working on with our audience. Then I have several questions. The first question is, based upon your knowledge, what are the biggest gaps in this digital divide? So, first tell us briefly what's that program you're working on relating to the digital divide, and what is the biggest gap in the digital divide?
Sure. So besides Intel, we also work with even Meta on digital divide related programs with several partners actually. Yeah. So at this stage now we work with several partners, but specifically for the Intel program, we help to implement what is called there's two programs. One of it is called the Intel Digital Readiness Program, and this particular program is targeted at delivering AI skills to what we call a non-technical individuals, right? And so there are 5 subcategories in this. The 5 subcategories are your general public, your youth, your vocational community college students, and are also those who are currently in employment today, right? As well as your public sector leaders. Right? So these are the different audience groups, and the goal is to have them be able to not just understand, but deploy AI in their workflow. Right? So that's the entire goal for that particular program. The second program is called the Intel Skills for Innovation with Intel. And this one is targeted at educators, teachers who are in elementary, middle, and high schools, who are basically trying to, bring technology-based education to the classroom, and they're struggling with it, right? I mean, I think the K-12 system in the US is underfunded. Teachers are under a lot of pressure. There's a lot of problems there, right? And so we're trying to, through that program, chip away at some of those, systemic issues that you have over there. But those are the Intel programs, and the others as well with other organizations. But coming to the digital divide, right? The main problem here, right, is really, the as they always say, right, is the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, right? So we have a situation where meritocracy, right, has led to a model, which is meritocracy is good. I mean, fundamentally, right? But led to a model where successive generations are passing on their advantages, and successive generations are also passing on the disadvantages to the subsequent generations, right? So you get one side getting advantages, one get disadvantages, and you get that clearly happening as well. And we know in many societies is that the more divides there are, and digital divide is just one, right? But you also have a socio-economic divide, you have religious divide, you have ethnic divide, and so on. But the more divides there are, the more fractured society becomes, the less able we are to work together to solve problems that affect all of us. And for us, we see that sustainability problems are problems that require all of us to work together, right? And these divides totally don't help at all, right? In that regard. So for us, focusing on sustainability as a core issue, we are always trying to close divides or whatever form. It happens with digital. That's our focus at the moment, right? But there are other kinds of divides as well that if we get the opportunity to, we will aim and attempt to sort of close the gap as well, right? And digital divide typically stems or rather manifests in a few ways, right? It manifests in the context of what they call access, So accessibility or access is one. The second would basically be what they call as exposure, right? So like, do you even know about the digital technologies in the first place? Do you have access to it, right? And then are you, of course, able to acquire it, right? Do you actually have the capital or the resources to acquire and do meaningful things with it, right? So sometimes you find that people have awareness about it because they have social media, they learned about it, whatever, and so on, but they may not have the training, they may not have the skills, able to make use of it. And even if they have the skills and they've gone to the courses, they may not actually have the money, right, or the access to those equipment or devices and whatever and so on, right? So digital divide typically takes the form of these three ways. Sometimes it's a conflation of multiple issues, sometimes just one of these issues, but generally that's how the space is viewed. And the problem is that digital divide in the past used to be really about making sure people have access to electricity, have access to devices, have access to internet. But we haven't even solved that problem. And today, now we have access to AI and all these other things coming up, right? So the problem is deepening, but more of the fundamental issues have not even been addressed in many places, right? So you kind of need people working at different levels of it. Some working at a very early stage. So if you look at very remote communities, if you look at some of the very very poor Pacific Island nations or countries in Africa, especially in Central Africa, for example, right? They have more fundamental issues like internet access, electricity access, and so on, right? Let's not even talk about AI, right, for that matter. And if you look at like middle income countries, right? If you look at South Africa, India, for example, or Malaysia, and even Indonesia, and so on, these countries have access in terms of internet, their power and all that stuff, and devices even. But what they don't have is basically these skills, right? To be able to effectively profit from digital economy, right? So you have that access, the economic opportunity that they don't get access to. So it's a complex problem, and I think the way you see this problem is that it's a very local problem as well. Like even the US, right? Depending on which state you're in, right? the way you would think about digital divide can be quite different, right? Whether you're in an inner city or you're in a rural environment, or whether you're in Wyoming, right? I think depending on how the state government funds education and funds technology skilling, digital divide even exists within the US itself, for that matter.
Thank you for watching.